Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be looking at some pretty interesting marketing material, and it's for this product called Wealth Geometric Code.
Okay.
And this product, it claims that it can help you attract wealth, uh, basically effortlessly.
Effortlessly.
Yeah, just by activating like a geometric cell in your brain.
The geometric cell. Okay.
Yeah, and they say they do this using these sound frequencies.
Sound frequencies.
Yeah, and these sound frequencies are supposedly based on what they call sacred geometry.
Sacred geometry, huh?
I
Interesting.
know, right? So, I mean, does this sound like kind of too good to be true?
It does sound a little out there.
Yeah, it does, right?
Yeah.
But stick with us, and we're going to break down, all the details of what they're saying.
Yeah, let's see what they've got.
Okay, so one thing that really jumps out when you look at this material is they really, really emphasize this guy, Dr. Joe Vitale.
Dr. Joe Vitale. Okay, so we're talking like the secret Dr. Joe Vitale.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one. And they highlight all of his, his credentials, his books that he's written, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, trying to really bolster his credibility.
Yeah, basically they're trying to establish his authority in, the self-help world.
Yeah.
And I think it's a pretty classic marketing technique. They leverage a familiar face to try to build trust with potential customers.
Right, right. It's that, hey, if this guy believes in it, it's got to work kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
But I'm curious, like beyond the celebrity endorsement, what's the actual science behind this whole thing? What are they claiming?
Okay, so they talk about this like groundbreaking discovery by neuropsychologists, and he claimed that wealthy people have like a much higher presence of these brainwaves called gamma brainwaves.
Gamma brainwaves. Okay. So for our listeners who might not be familiar with those, like what are gamma brainwaves exactly?
Well, gamma brainwaves are they're these brainwaves that are associated with like higher cognitive functions, so things like processing information and learning.
Okay, so like thinking really hard.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So are they saying that people who think harder get richer?
Well, they're kind of trying to suggest a link between these gamma brainwaves and the ability to attract wealth.
Interesting. So how do they make that connection? What's their logic there?
Well, they introduce this whole concept of the geometric cell, and they say it's located in the pineal gland.
Pineal gland. Okay.
Yeah, and they claim that this geometric cell is like the key to unlocking wealth and abundance.
Okay, so how does the geometric cell like actually work? Like what's the mechanism?
So they say that by activating this geometric cell through these specific sound frequencies, it increases your gamma brainwave activity, and that supposedly leads to financial abundance.
So it's like sound frequencies unlock the geometric cell, boost your gamma waves, and then money just starts flowing in.
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Okay, so now like this is where it gets really, really intriguing. Where do these sound frequencies come from? Like what are they based on?
Well, that's the interesting part. They claim that these sound frequencies are derived from sacred geometry.
Sacred geometry. So we're getting into like ancient mysticism territory now.
Yeah, basically they're blending like ancient mystical concepts with modern neuroscience.
Right. Creating a narrative that's both like kind of intriguing, but also, like you said earlier, a little bit out there.
Yeah, well, a little far-fetched maybe.
Yeah. But I bet they have a compelling story to back all this up, right? Like some kind of, proof that this actually works.
Well, to make it even more convincing, they share this personal story from Dr. Joe Vitale himself.
Okay, what's the story?
So he claims that after using the product, he received a collection of vintage self-help books from a relative,
Okay.
and these books turned out to be worth like a staggering amount of money,
Staggering. Like how much are we talking?
like $750,000.
$750,000 just from some old books.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, right?
Wow. Okay. So is this like proof that the product works? Or is it just, a lucky coincidence?
That's the question, isn't it? It's one of those things where it's like, is it just a coincidence, or is there something more to it?
Right, right. Because, I mean, one person's experience, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. You can't really generalize from just one person's, anecdotal experience.
Exactly. But before we dive into like a more critical analysis, I kind of want to look at the marketing tactics that they're using here.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
Because, I mean, they're clearly trying to create a sense of urgency, right? Like,
Right.
they use phrases like limited time offer.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And they even hint that, like, the website might be taken down soon.
Right, like you got to act now or you'll miss out.
Exactly. Classic scarcity marketing.
Yeah, trying to push people to make a quick decision.
Right, right. And notice how they break down the cost, too, making it seem more, like, affordable, accessible.
Yeah, they do that a lot in these kinds of self-help marketing materials.
Right. And then, of course, they have the risk-free money-back guarantee.
Yeah, that's a classic.
So it's like, you nothing to lose, right?
Right.
And then they sweeten the deal even further by offering all those, bonus tracks.
Oh yeah, the bonuses.
Like the ideas to money track and the millionaire decision-making tone. It's like, oh, wow, that sounds amazing.
It's all very strategically designed, right, to
Yeah.
make the offer seem like irresistible.
Exactly,
Yeah.
to maximize that perceived value.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a carefully crafted sales pitch. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But now it's time to put on those critical thinking hats and really examine the claims that they're making.
Yeah, we gotta separate the hype from the reality.
Exactly, because the story might sound captivating, right?
Oh yeah,
And the marketing might be very persuasive.
it is.
But the question remains, is there any real evidence to support these
Oh,
claims?
that's the big question, isn't it?
Is this stuff actually legit?
Yeah.
So, before the break, we were talking about how the self-help industry, they really bank on, people wanting those quick fixes.
Right. Those easy solutions.
Yeah, and I think this wealth geometric code, it's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, it really is. And when you look at the marketing material, you can see how they're really playing to those desires.
Oh,
They
yeah,
use
yeah.
all this like very, enticing language like effortless wealth,
Yeah.
activate your abundance,
Mm.
manifest your dreams. And it's very appealing, especially to someone, who might be struggling financially.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's like they're weaving this narrative that kind of blends science and spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
to give it this air of credibility.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, they talk about sacred geometry,
Right.
and they suggest that, these ancient principles hold the key to, unlocking wealth.
Right. Like it's some ancient secret.
Yeah, it's a clever tactic because it taps into this sense of like mystery and ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're presenting it as like this cutting edge breakthrough.
Right. Right. Like they've cracked the code.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like we've cracked the code of the ancients,
Mhm.
and now we're sharing this secret knowledge with you.
Yeah. But as we talked about earlier, there's no real evidence to actually back up these claims.
Right.
It's all very carefully crafted to sound, convincing. But when you really start to dig deeper, you realize there's not really much substance behind the hype.
Right. Right. And that kind of brings us back to the importance of critical thinking, right?
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
when you encounter claims like these, it's crucial to just like pause for a second and ask yourself,
Right.
what evidence is there? What
Yeah.
evidence is there to support this? Like,
Yeah.
is this actually a legitimate scientific concept,
Mm-hmm.
or is it just like clever marketing?
Yeah, exactly. So instead of just taking their word for it, we should be looking for, some independent verification.
Right. Exactly.
Like, are there any reputable studies or research that back up what they're saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's not just about checking for evidence. It's also about understanding, how our own biases can influence our perception,
Oh, right.
because we all want to believe that there's like a simple solution to our problem.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Especially when it comes to, something as important as finances.
Right.
But we need to be aware of these biases and be willing to kind of challenge our own assumptions.
So it's almost like we have to be aware of how our own minds work
Exactly.
and how our desires or even our fears can kind of make us more susceptible to, these persuasive techniques.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that awareness is so crucial for developing those, critical thinking skills. It's not about, being cynical
Right.
or distrusting everything that you hear. It's about approaching information with a healthy dose of skepticism
Right.
and a willingness to kind of question those assumptions.
Okay, so let's try to put this into practice a little bit.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
look at some specific examples from this wealth geometric code marketing material,
Okay. Yeah.
and see how we can apply some of these critical thinking skills.
That's
So, for instance, they
Mhm.
talk a lot about how this product it activates the geometric cell in your brain,
right.
which then leads to increased gamma brainwave activity. So, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, first of all, this idea of a specific a geometric cell in the brain, there's really no scientific evidence to support that.
Okay.
And while gamma brainwaves, those are real,
Right.
there's no evidence to suggest that they can be, manipulated in this way to attract wealth.
Right.
It's important to remember that, correlation doesn't equal causation.
Oh, right, right.
Just because, some wealthy individuals, maybe they exhibit higher gamma brainwave activity,
hmm
that doesn't mean that those brainwaves are the cause of their wealth.
Right, right. So it's almost like they're taking a real scientific concept, gamma brain waves,
Hmm.
and kind of twisting it to fit their narrative.
Exactly, yeah. And this is a common tactic that you see a lot in, pseudoscientific marketing.
Okay.
They use, scientific jargon and concepts to create this illusion of credibility.
hmm
But the claims themselves, they're often baseless.
Okay, so that's one example. What about their claims about sacred geometry?
Right.
They talk about how the product uses frequencies that are derived from these ancient principles,
Hmm.
to activate the geometric cell.
Right. Right. Again, it's a clever way to kind of like blend science and spirituality
Yeah.
to create this, compelling narrative.
Yeah.
But there's just no scientific basis for the idea that sacred geometry can have any impact on, brain function or financial success. It's an ancient philosophical concept.
Right.
It's not a scientific principle.
So they're kind of appropriating these ancient concepts to give their product this air of mystery and authority.
Precisely, yeah. And this is something that you'll often see with products that make these like extraordinary claims.
Mm,
They'll often draw upon, ancient wisdom,
right.
mystical traditions, or
hmm
or esoteric knowledge
Right.
to create that sense of intrigue and exclusivity.
Okay. So we've talked about the lack of scientific evidence, the use of uh, the pseudoscientific language. What other red flags should our listeners be aware of?
Well, one common tactic is the use of testimonials.
Right. The testimonials.
Which, as we, discussed earlier, personal stories, they can be very, very persuasive,
hmm
but they're not a substitute for actual scientific evidence.
Right. Just because it worked for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. And testimonials, they can be very easily manipulated
Right.
or cherry picked to support, a particular narrative.
So we should always kind of take those with a grain of salt and look for, more objective evidence to support the claims.
Absolutely. And another red flag is the use of high pressure sales tactics.
Right.
Like those limited time offers
hmm
or claims that the opportunity will disappear soon.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to create that sense of urgency,
Yeah,
like pushing you to make a decision before you've really had time to think it through.
exactly. Yeah. And that's a common tactic in marketing, especially for products that make these really bold promises.
Right, right. So when we see those kinds of tactics,
Yeah.
That's a sign to maybe be a little extra cautious.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of like step back and really, really evaluate the claims before making any decisions.
Precisely. Yeah. It's about taking control of that decision-making process and not letting yourself be swayed by those, emotional appeals
Right.
or pressure tactics.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about, the marketing tactics, the lack of scientific evidence, and the importance of critical thinking. But I want to kind of circle back to something we touched on earlier,
Mm-hmm.
which is the potential dangers of relying on these kinds of products,
Right.
especially for vulnerable individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really crucial point. People who are facing financial hardship, They're often more susceptible to promises of, those quick fixes
Right.
and easy solutions.
Right, they might be desperate for a way out of their situation.
Exactly. They might be desperate for a way out, and that desperation can, cloud their judgment.
Right, it's like they're grasping at straws, hoping for a miracle.
Exactly. Yeah. And that can make them, more vulnerable to scams,
Yeah.
schemes, and products that, make these unrealistic promises.
So,
Yeah.
what can we do to kind of protect ourselves and others from falling prey to these kinds of products?
Well, I mean, I think education is key here.
Hmm.
The more we understand about, personal finance,
Mhm.
investing, and consumer protection,
Yeah.
the better equipped we'll be to make those, informed decisions.
Right.
And that's where resources like the ones that we've linked in the episode description,
Mm.
those can come in really handy. They provide, valuable information and guidance on a wide range of financial topics.
Right. It's about empowering ourselves with that knowledge,
Yeah.
taking control of our finances and making choices that align with our values and our goals.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's also important to be aware of, the resources that are available to help people who might be struggling financially.
Mm.
There are reputable organizations out there that offer, credit counseling,
Yeah.
debt management, and financial education programs.
Right.
And these organizations, they can provide, really valuable support and guidance
Hmm.
to help individuals kind of get back on track and build a more secure financial future.
So it's not just about protecting ourselves, it's also about supporting others who might be more vulnerable.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about creating a culture of financial literacy and empowerment
Hmm.
where everyone has access to the knowledge and resources that they need to make informed decisions about their money.
And that's a vision I think we can all get behind, right? A
Yeah.
world where financial well-being is within reach for everyone.
Absolutely, yeah. And by working together, sharing information and promoting critical thinking,
Hmm.
we can make that vision a reality.
Beautifully said. So to kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive, we've highlighted the importance of critical thinking, when we're evaluating products like this wealth geometric code. We've discussed the marketing tactics, the lack of scientific evidence, and the potential dangers for those who are more vulnerable.
Right.
And we've really emphasized the importance of education, self-empowerment,
Mm-hmm.
and supporting those who might be struggling financially.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on to our final segment. We'll explore the broader kind of societal implications of these types of products and discuss what we can do to promote a more informed and empowered approach to personal and financial well-being.
Sounds good. Yeah, looking forward to delving into those important questions.
Yes.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the wealth geometric code. In this final segment, I think it'd be good to kind of zoom out a little bit and consider the bigger picture. Like, what are the societal implications of these kinds of products? Because, it's not just about, one product or one marketing campaign, right? It's about understanding these like underlying trends that shape how we think and how we act, especially when it comes to, money and success.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this deep dive has really like made me think about how easily we can be influenced, you know, by
Yeah.
by persuasive techniques, especially when they play on our desires for a better life.
Right, exactly.
And I think, when you add in all those anxieties around, financial security, it's easy to see how people might be drawn to these types of promises, these like easy solutions.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, we live in a culture that really puts a lot of emphasis on wealth.
Hmm.
They equate wealth with happiness and success.
Yeah.
And that can create so much pressure, so much anxiety, especially for people who are struggling to make ends meet.
Right.
And these products, like the wealth geometric code, they really capitalize on that.
Yeah.
They offer what seems like a simple solution,
Right.
to a very, very complex problem.
And I think, the internet and social media, they've kind of like amplified all of this, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Like we're constantly bombarded with all these messages about wealth and success and like the good life.
Right.
And it's so easy to get caught up in that comparison game, and feel like you're not measuring up.
Yeah. Social media especially, it can create such a distorted view of reality.
Hmm.
It's like all you see is those highlight reels of people's lives, and it's easy to forget that everyone has their own struggles, their own challenges, regardless of, how much money they have.
So what can we do to kind of like counter that narrative?
Hmm.
How can we, develop a more balanced view of wealth and success?
Well, I think it really starts with recognizing that wealth is just one aspect of a fulfilling life. It's important, of course,
Right.
but it's not everything. There are
Hmm.
so many other things that contribute to, happiness and well-being, like strong relationships,
Yeah.
meaningful work, good health, and a sense of purpose.
It's a great point. It's about, shifting our focus away from just like material possessions
Right. Yeah.
to those more intrinsic values,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Finding fulfillment in experiences, in connections, in personal growth,
Yeah.
not just, chasing after the next dollar.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also think it's important to just have like open and honest conversations about money.
Hmm.
We need to break down the taboo around, financial struggles and create a space where people feel comfortable, talking about their challenges and seeking support.
Yeah, I think that's so crucial because when we keep those things bottled up,
Right.
it can lead to shame, to isolation,
Hmm.
and even more financial stress.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some practical things that people can do, to kind of develop a healthier relationship with money
Hmm.
and avoid falling prey to these quick fix schemes.
Yeah. So one of the most important things is to really focus on developing your financial literacy.
Hmm.
The more you understand about how money works,
Right.
the better equipped you'll be to make those informed decisions.
Right.
And there are so many great resources out there, from books and websites to financial advisors,
Hmm.
counselors,
Yeah.
so many things out there to help you.
Right. So it's about empowering ourselves with that knowledge,
Mhm. Yeah.
taking control of our finances and making choices that are in line with what we value and what our goals are.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's also important to be mindful of our spending habits.
Mm.
It's so easy to get caught up in that consumerist culture
Right.
and spend more than we can actually afford. Taking the time to track your expenses, create a budget, set some financial goals that can really help you get control over your spending
Yeah.
and make your money work for you.
Yeah. It's about being intentional.
Yeah.
Making conscious choices and avoiding those impulsive purchases that can lead to debt or more financial stress.
Exactly. And finally, I think it's important to remember that building wealth, it it takes time.
Hmm.
It takes effort. There are no shortcuts. There's no magic solutions.
Yeah.
It's about making smart choices,
Mhm.
investing wisely and being patient.
So it's not about getting rich quick. It's about building that solid foundation for long-term financial stability.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that requires, discipline, commitment, and a willingness to kind of learn and adapt along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a message I think that we need to hear more often, especially in a culture that often, glorifies instant gratification and overnight success.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So to wrap up our deep dive into the wealth geometric code, we've explored the product itself. We've looked at the marketing tactics. We talked about the lack of scientific evidence, the potential dangers, for those who might be more vulnerable.
Hmm.
But we've also gone beyond the product itself.
Right.
We've looked at the bigger picture, that societal context,
Yeah.
and talked about, what can we do to kind of cultivate a healthier relationship with money
Hmm.
and build a more fulfilling and sustainable life.
Absolutely. And we've highlighted the importance of, critical thinking, financial literacy, mindful spending, and planning for the long term.
Right. And we've also, emphasized the need to break down that taboo that surrounds, financial struggles
Yeah.
and create a space where people can feel comfortable talking about their challenges and seeking that support.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, we've encouraged our listeners to really question that narrative that equates, wealth with happiness and success, and just remind them that, there's so many other things that contribute to a fulfilling life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And for those of you listening who are interested in learning more about personal finance, investing, and building a healthy relationship with money, be sure to check out those resources that we've linked in the episode description.
Yeah, those resources, they can provide some really valuable guidance and support, help you make those informed decisions and create a brighter financial future.
Exactly.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this episode has encouraged you to think critically, to question those assumptions, and to really take control of your financial well-being.
Remember, knowledge is power. And by educating ourselves, by making informed choices and supporting each other, we can create a world where financial well-being is something that everyone can achieve.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered.